Well, obviously, I was in some part inspired by the Pygmalion myth. Right. About the sculptor who falls in love with his statue as he's making it, and then prays that it will come to life, and the gods grant him his wish. And I think that myth comes down to us gendered for a reason. That there's a kind of way that men have a romantic idea or ideal of women that feels different than the way that women look at men. And so I think I was writing from that perspective, although not with an agenda necessarily. Can you hear me? Okay, good. That like a movie like Annie Hall, for instance, that I think that's an amazing movie, and that woman feels so real to me. But then I start to ask myself, that is a woman being filtered through a man's gaze. So what feels real about it to me? Is he writing from inspiration or from aspiration? And that question sort of filtered through me into the story, but I didn't have an agenda, like I said, while writing it.
We were also attracted to the idea that all relationships begin with a certain amount of fiction, and so while there are very specific issues about women in film, it's also very much about how relationships evolve and how they begin, and the issues of control in any relationship.
Also, I think we were interested in the idea of, the relationship that Calvin has just to his creation, and, the way that we all try to control the work we're doing, and it's sort of this wrestling with how much control do you really want to have, and then letting it kind of have a life of its own. And so I think the fact that all those issues were alive in this story is what really attracted us to it.
The scene in the car, and actually the scene before that in the kitchen when we make her speak French, that was the writing's so great, and so if you follow it, you'll pretty much succeed, and especially with their direction. But it was, I think, scary for me only because it was because Harry is the audience in a way, in a big way, I think. And so if I screwed that up, I thought maybe the audience would maybe stop following this belief in Ruby Sparks. So it was important. We did a bunch of different takes with the laughing and the being serious and being scared of her and being amazed and seeing a ghost. And they put what I'm happy what they used. And
Chris makes those two scenes seem very easy, and like, of course that's the way you would react, but trying to figure out how one would react to a situation which we never actually encounter in life is such a challenge. And you made it so human and so real, and it was just such a gift to the film. And also pulling
makes me laugh every time.
Yeah, and the physicality, even in the stuffed in the car, was just so wonderful. So
when you're dealing with a fantastic subject matter, and there's certainly fantastic elements in this movie, it's really important, in my opinion, to ground it in a recognizable reality, so the audience is immediately feeling like this is the world that we live in, that this is taking place in, and it doesn't think about it, and then they're thinking about the story and the characters. And beyond that, there were things that we wanted to do specifically to create the reality of these characters. Like Calvin was a young writer. He had a lot of money at one point that he got from writing his first book, and he probably lived in a big house. What kind of house was this? Where was it? We ended up shooting almost everything in the Silver Lake and Los Feliz area, which seemed like the kind of neighborhood he would live in. And but then there were considerations beyond that. We wanted a space that would allow the actors to move in a certain way and to develop the characters in a certain way. So all of those elements came into consideration when the first thing we did was try to find the house.
These guys, they do something that at the end of the day, I really think you become a theater troupe. We got together and they handed us journals, and we wrote in these journals. They asked us a bunch of questions, and we wrote about ourselves, and we wrote about our characters, and everybody did this, Zoe, Paul, and Ed. We would share our entries with each other, and very personal stuff. We played darts. We listened to music together. We ate together. We ran around the room together. And by the end of it, you have people like Paul and I who knew each other very little, don't look much like each other, and your brothers. Your brothers. And that kind of experience is it's so rare, at least for me, and it's so valuable. And it will be missed on the next film and the next until I could try to get back together with them, because it was so cool. It was so fun.